Okay, 3.3 is just a review on lines. So we're just going to go through, I think there's 7 pages. Yep, there's 7 pages of notes. I think it's going to go pretty quickly though because it's all review from Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. Okay, so to find the line, to find the slope of a line, this is the formula. It's y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So let's just do an example. And this is x1, y1, x2, y2. To find the slope of a line, you take the second y, which is a -3, and subtract it from the first y. You take the second x and subtract it from the first x. This ends up being a positive. A -3 plus 1 is a -2. A -6 minus 4 is a -10, which simplifies a slope of 1 divided by 5. So that's how you find the slope given 2 points. I just want to go through all the types of slopes that a line might have just really quickly. You can have a positive slope because you always look at a graph from left to right. So this one has a positive slope and this one has a negative slope. Both of these you would use y equals mx plus b, where b stands for where it crosses the y-axis and m is the slope. Your other two is a horizontal line and a vertical line. So maybe like right over here. This one has a positive slope up there. This one has a negative slope. This one has a slope equaling 0. And this one has a slope that's non-existent. It's a no solution. A lot of times we say it does not exist. A horizontal line starts with the letter y, so maybe this is y is equal to 3, and a vertical line starts with the letter x. And a positive and a negative have a y and an x in it, so just keep in mind. So I just want to go back to this page really quickly, just to show you this one, and then I'll be done. So let's say they gave you 4 comma 3 and 4 comma -2, and they asked you to find the slope. The y's go on the top, so the -2 minus 3 goes on the top, and the x's go on the bottom, which is 4 minus 4. You're going to get a -5 divided by 0. You can never have 0 in the denominator. This does not exist. It's going to say error on your calculator. You can never have 0 in the denominator. This slope does not exist then. And if I graph these 2 points, 4, 3, and 4, -2, and connected the 2 points, it would be a vertical line. And remember, back here, a vertical line, which it looks like when you connect those 2 points, does not exist. You can have 0 in the numerator. You cannot have 0 in the denominator. So if it was the opposite way, and it was 0 divided by a -5, that equals 0. See the difference between where the 0 is located? Okay, they want you to sketch the graph of y is equal to mx. Okay, so basically all they're saying is y equals mx, and then there's an imaginary 0 at the end of this. So basically they want you to graph it. So if there's no number at the end, it has to have a y-intercept at 0. And all they're doing is asking you to graph it when m is equal to 2 and m is equal to a -1/3. So I'm going to use a red, well, that didn't work. I'm going to use a red to graph when m equals 2. So in place of m, I'm going to put a 2. My y-intercept is 0, and I'm going to go up 2 and over 1. So that is the graph. That's the graph if m equals 2. And I'm going to change colors to green. What happens now? That didn't work. guess we're going to keep it to blue. We'll just keep it black. Y-intercept is 0 for this one, it's green, and now the slope is a negative 1/3, so down 1 and over 3. You're just getting, they're just having you change the M and seeing if you know the difference between positive slopes and negative slopes. So that's all you're doing for that part. The next part, you're supposed to find a point parallel to the y-axis. So that goes through 5, -2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -2. There's 5, -2. They want you to come up with a line parallel to the y-axis. A line parallel to the y-axis. This is the y-axis. This is to the x-axis. So if you want to be parallel to the y-axis, it makes a vertical line, and all vertical line starts with the letter x. And what does x equal in this problem? 5. They want you to find a line perpendicular to the y-axis, which would make a horizontal line through that point. And all horizontal lines start with the letter y, and y equals a -2. So that's all you're doing on that. Okay, the next part. What about the point 5, -3, and the slope is -4? You're supposed to find an equation perpendicular to that. So before we get into this, y equals 2x plus 3, and y equals 2x minus 4. These two lines are parallel because they have the same slope. And you learn this in Algebra 1, you learn this in Algebra 2, you also learn this in geometry, that when slopes are the same, they are parallel. Perpendicular slopes, one can be 2x plus 3, but the other one has to be the opposite reciprocal. Opposite reciprocal. If the slopes are opposite reciprocals, then it's perpendicular. So on the test, or in your homework today, they're asking you, you're going to use the points 5, -3, and they're giving you the slope -4. They want you to come up with an equation that's perpendicular to that. So I'm just going to put in y equals mx plus b. And they give us the point 5, -3, so in place of the x, I'm going to put the 5, and in place of the y, I'm going to put the -3. I need to find b. But if I want it to be perpendicular to a -4, I'm not going to use a -4, I'm going to use a positive 1/4 right here. So I want it to be perpendicular to it. So you get -3 equals a positive 5/4 plus b, which is the same thing as a positive 1.25 if you want to write it as a decimal. Subtract 1.25 to both sides. B is equal to a -4.25. You're supposed to come up with an equation. So here's my equation. Y equals, my slope is 1/4 x minus 4.25. And I don't know why it's changing colors, but it is. The original slope was a -4. The one perpendicular to it would be 1/4. And I found my b value by substituting my x's and my y's and my m's. Put equation in slope-intercept form to graph. So this part of the assignment, they're just going to ask you to graph. Again, you've had this many times, so you should know in order to graph, you need it in the form of y equals mx plus b. So I need to subtract x to both sides, and I need to divide everything by a -5. So I'm going to get y equals a positive 3 plus 1/5 of an x, because two negatives equal a positive. The 3 is where it crosses the y-axis at, and the slope is up 1 and over 5. Connect your two, and you are done. You need to get y alone in order to graph Given the graph, find the equation. So this shouldn't take too long. You know that it crosses the y-axis at 2. That stands for the b. And all you have to do is find the m, which is the slope. This definitely has a negative slope. And I went down 1 and to the right 2. So I went down 1 and to the right 2. Rise over run, and that is it. And we have one more thing of notes. Find the slope if the x-intercept is 4 and the y-intercept is a -3. Find the slope if the x-intercept is 4 and the y-intercept is -3. I'm even going to go farther. Instead of finding the slope, I'm going to actually find the equation. Well, if the x-intercept is 4, I'm just going to draw myself a picture. It crosses the x-axis at 4, and it crosses the y-axis at a -3, and I'm going to connect my 2 points. I can write my equation, y equals mx plus b. Y equals, I know that it crosses the y-axis, or my b value, at a -3, and my slope is definitely positive. I rose 3, and I went over 4. It's rise over run, so the slope is a positive 347x. And that's all the notes on lines.